His name is Nathan Mulcahy. He is running in Massachusetts, 6 congressional districts, and he is a Bernie crack candidate, and he is progressive through and through, which is the only people I have on here. So thank you so much for joining us, Nathan.
My pleasure. Um, I go by Nathaniel, but Nat works well too. But in any event, thank you for having me. I know this has been a huge scheduling challenge, especially with everything that's going on, and the amazing. And thank you for traveling and doing everything you did. That was heroic, and I
Oh,
can
absolutely. I'm so glad to have you.
thank you. I can imagine the emotion that you've been through lately, and we all have in some way. Um, and part of why I'm pushing so hard is it doesn't matter who the president is. Um, the policies are what matters, and the movement is what matters. And if we don't have a progressive Congress, it doesn't matter who's in office. We won't get a progressive platform. Period.
Absolutely. That is so right. I mean, we're all incredibly heartbroken right now with Bernie. But it is just as important to get people like yourself elected, because you guys have the power to stop things that will be harmful and also to promote things that will be helpful. So it's definitely important that we all keep progressive candidates at all levels in the forefront of our minds. Um, what? Well, first of all, I should say you were excited about doing the show today as May Day. So do you want to
Absolutely.
touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that it when you offered May 1st as the date, I was beyond excited because May 1st is the Labor Day, the real Labor Day, and it's the day that is celebrated all over the world. And I thought, you know, I wanted to be able to celebrate May Day in a way that really mattered. And so this interview was that. And then the news came out, which makes it before this airing happened came out, which made it even more vibrantly important because on the day where people all over the world are celebrating laborers, our nation is sending laborers literally and figuratively to slaughterhouses with a presidential order. So I mean, the sharp contrast of how our nation is treating laborers on this day in particular um, is breathtaking. And so, all the more reason to be on this show, especially today.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible. People are being faced with, yeah, you can't pay your mortgage or rent, and yeah, your kids are starving, but you're being forced to go back to a place to work that you could potentially die.
Yeah.
So what we have an unprecedented amount of people on unemployment. Are people reaching out to you and saying, since you're running, what can we do about this? What are your thoughts on this?
Many people have reached out, and it's. I've had a lot of heartbreaking stories. People asking for help. As you gain public visibility, that happens, and then they find out that I've been running a humanitarian company for 20 years, and they figure that's the next logical step. What I see as a humanitarian is our country is deficient in safety nets compared to any any other country. I mean, I work in 16 different countries. In Rwanda, they are handling the COVID epidemic more aggressively and with a better social safety net than here. I can give you one really good example. So a family in Rwanda was visited a couple days ago by somebody who was possibly infected. It's not confirmed, but it's possible. At that point, the national priorities trigger into place. A government vehicle comes and transports the entire family to the hospital. The entire family is tested. The test takes a short time, and they'll get answers within hours, not weeks. The family is then brought home, but because the government has determined, as the CDC has, as the World Health Organization has, that there's a high percentage of false negatives within the tests, that if you've come in contact with an infected person, even if you come back with a negative test, you will be quarantined for a minimum of 14 days. During those 14 days, you have to actually stay in your house. There are huge fines if you leave the house, but the
Wow.
government provides you with financial support to cover bills and drops a box of food off on your front step every day.
Wow.
At the end of 2 weeks, you get retested, and you will be retested for 6 months. This is the protocol in Rwanda, and
That
we
is
aren't even close
incredible.
to that.
Wow. That's really mind-blowing. It really is. That's, we hear so much, and I've listened to documentaries about Rwanda and everything, and the pictures you have on your website, I can't, oh my God, they're so beautiful. That is really incredible.
Thank you.
We could learn a lot
I
from
have
that. And it just makes so sense because that is how we would stop it.
instantly, yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Or,
Um,
or look at New Zealand, right? Not a developing nation. New Zealand is the first nation. They have zero new cases. They've completely stopped it. But that's the difference between actual leadership and corporate owned leadership.
absolutely. What is your biggest apprehension? I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania, and today I was watching the daily, update, and they said 1,200 new cases, and we're opening on the 6th.
Yeah, yeah. We should not open. I mean, until we've right now, hospitals are already at overcapacity. To put it into perspective, half my family lives in northern Italy in the epicenter of the outbreak. Um, um, and it's been a rough month. We'll just say that. Um, that said, the death rate of COVID cases in the epicenter of northern Italy was hovering around 1 to 2% um, up until all the ICU beds were filled. In northern Italy, there are 35 ICU beds per thousand people.
Wow.
Here in Massachusetts, one of the really advanced medical states, there are two equivalent type ICU beds per thousand residents. So once Italy hit the 35 filled spots, the death rate went from 2% to 8.9%, and in certain categories of disabled or immunocompromised or elderly, we're looking at 20% death rate. So 1 in 5.
Wow.
You know, um, we are 1 month behind. And right now, you see all the comparisons of people saying, well, we're doing better than Italy because look at them and look at us. But guys, you're looking at us compared to Italy now. You're not looking at us compared to Italy a month ago. And if you look at
Yes.
Italy compared a month ago to where we are now, the trajectory for our country right now is not good. We should not be reopening, not until we have this at least a social setup going forward. Masks should be mandatory in every state. Massachusetts, there are now a dozen communities that make them required to leave or go shopping. But and statewide, Charlie Baker, our governor, has just issued a recommendation that all states do it. So there's that. I mean, all counties do it, but um, but we're not going to get this under control without aggressive tactics and aggressive leadership. And to deny the reality of the difficult situation we're in is only going to lead to more deaths.
Absolutely. And you're a dad of two toddlers,
Yeah.
and they are immunocompromised.
Right.
So, having two little 3-year-olds, what is that like as a parent?
It's
Seeing the way that this is being handled so incorrectly.
it's it's honestly terrifying. Our children were born very premature. They spent months in NICU. When the outbreak first began here, I reached out immediately to the nurses that had helped us so much in all those months that we were in NICU, and said, if we get to this point, where do we bring them if they get them? And and I got two answers. The first was, um, Beth Israel doesn't have intensive care beds for infants. We deal with premature babies, but you'll have to go to Boston Children's. So that was answer one. Answer two was they're already full. So before the outbreak was even recognized in Massachusetts as a critical issue, there were no longer ICU beds available for toddlers. So it's terrifying. Um, up until now, you've seen me with a beard, um, and we have a critical deadline of getting signatures by May 5th. I started my campaign in a very different way, and this is a long rambling explanation, but
Oh no,
there's
it's
a,
fine.
I started my campaign because I think one of the real issues in our nation, and one of the reasons our country is in the terrible state that it is now, is because of how money influences elections. So, taking a page out of Sema Hernandez's book in Texas, I said, we need to do a campaign that has no money. And we focused entirely on not fundraising, but gathering volunteers. And we have 238 volunteers.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my
So,
God.
so our campaign has grown organically with that, which has been amazing. And I have an amazing core team, which has been everything to me. Um, they are just amazing and good and kind-hearted and passionate people. But then COVID struck, and you can't go out gather signatures, or you shouldn't go out and gather signatures. In Massachusetts, to get on the ballot, you were at that time required to have 4,000 signatures. Um, Given the rate of infection in Massachusetts at this time, 1 in 4,000, it's very likely you're going to hit, actually nearly a 100% guarantee that you will hit one infected person. And since COVID is contagious when asymptomatic, it means that that one person would certainly have the contact of 4,000 other people, be it a field worker, be it one of the signatories, be it the candidate. There's one candidate whose father ended up testing positive, and so they had to alert all the people who had come in contact with the candidate, and he was a senatorial candidate, which is 10,000 signatures.
Ooh.
So at that point, my volunteers said, no, it doesn't matter. We're going to go and get signatures. I said, absolutely not. You can't. So there was a court case, and we've worked with the Secretary of State, and we have now electronic signatures allowed, which is great, as of 2 days ago, but the deadline's May 5th. So the electronic signatures are doing great. They are, if we had a week, we would be beyond with the safety margin, but they're not fast enough just yet. So yesterday I had a beard, today I don't, because while I won't put anyone else's life at risk, other candidates used surrogates and got signatures by sending them out and risking their lives. I won't. I can't ethically do it. And I also have to keep my baby safe. And CDC regulations show that a face mask will not work if you have facial hair.
Oh.
So for the first time in 20 years, I have a lip and a chin. My wife has never seen me without a beard. My children have never seen me without a beard. Our dog was a little frightened when she saw me coming up the stairs because she had no idea who this guy was. Um,
Oh.
um,
Oh.
but
Oh no, I'm gonna have to tell my husband that.
yeah,
Oh my God.
well,
Wow, I had no idea.
yeah. Well,
Um,
to make it less frightening for the kids because they never saw Papa without a beard, um, we had the kids shave it off.
oh, that's so smart. What
So
did they think about it?
at the time, just taking off chunks of Daddy's beard and face, they thought it was absolutely fabulous. This morning when they woke up and they saw Papa looking a little different, um, our son is having a little harder time adjusting, and he keeps asking me, how fast is it going to grow back?
Oh.
Pina, our daughter, on the other hand, was really enthusiastic about chopping it off. And when I asked, she said, "We're going to chop it off." I said, "Yes." She said, "Can I use a big knife?" I said, "No, no, no, no."
Oh. Oh, that's so sweet. Um, I want to remind everyone before we get off the air as well, to sign. Do you have an idea of how many signatures you have?
Well, Ramona Maski retweeted our request, and that got us a boost of 50 signatures within minutes.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, it's moving. At this point, I think we're at the halfway mark already in just a matter of 48 hours. So,
Wow.
yeah, we can.
So,
Um,
does it have to be people in Massachusetts
yes, it
in
has
your
to not only,
district?
it has to be in our district. There are 39 towns and cities. I'll provide you a link that you can put down in the descriptions for
Yes.
the 39 towns and cities, and I'll give you a link to our signature page. So the signature page worked out really, really well. Um, uh, we got approval from the Secretary of State to do it, and I have to say the election division of our Secretary of State has been super, super, super helpful. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so there are silver linings to all of this.
Now, as far as your state goes, I know, there's been issues in the past, in 2016, Mass had some issues with, voting and during the primaries, things like that. What do you have any trepidation about any inconsistencies in voting this time? I assume it's going to be through mail like most of us will be.
We don't know yet when our so the presidential primary already took place. We were on Super Tuesday, and there were a lot of inconsistencies. If you look at exit polls, nothing matches, and we've gone to war with nations over inconsistencies of the level that Massachusetts had. It was 15% discrepancy. Some towns had 50% discrepancy. Unheard of. Anything over just 2% is considered fraud, right? Um,
Yes.
so there are a lot of issues. When I called the Secretary of State and asked how do we explain these inconsistencies, the response was, since no presidential candidate has complained, we will not be investigating. So it would have required an investigation to be started. But I said, wait a second, I'm a voter. I would like to know. It shouldn't have to be the candidate. The voter should have the right to initiate it, but apparently it's the candidate who does that. The other issue I had is, at a congressional level, I'm a congressional candidate. Assuming I get the signatures, our primary is in September. We don't know that there's going to be mail in ballots. We hope there will be, but either way, we should have the ability to trust our electoral process. And I would like a more thorough vetting of the presidential primary to assure that we actually can champion true democracy in our state and model it for the rest of the country. There have been problems in Massachusetts in the past. I mean, candidates being forced off the ballot, not being allowed to be on the ballot. Um,
Absolutely.
there's some serious issues, I'm not singling out Massachusetts. I just know Massachusetts because this is my home. But I think we as a nation need to work on electoral integrity. We need to work on voter turnout. In my congressional district in 2016, do you know what the voter turnout was?
Uh-oh. What's that?
8.84%.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think
Wow.
if you don't trust the election system, if you don't think your representatives are listening, why would you vote? Especially if it's not a holiday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why mail-in voting hopefully will you check a box, you send it in. Don't be lazy. Let's get those numbers up.
Right. And let's not forget that mail-in voting allows the disabled community to have greater access to the ballot, which is an enormous consideration which has been overlooked for far too long.
Absolutely. Great point. Um So as I digress a bit, but when I was looking at your about me section of your website, I'm like, I don't even know how to take notes on this. Like, you are so accomplished. It's like, oh my God. And I think the most impressive thing about you is your history as far as it would play into the new Green New Deal. Do you want to kind of touch on your history as far as environmentally?
Sure. So I've been a lifelong inventor. And in terms environmentally, in 1999, I started my own company called World Stove. It's a humanitarian engineering company which does humanitarian and environmental projects all over the world. In 2010, um, it's with enormous pride that my company became the first company in the world to be certified as carbon negative. So I've been, because of that work, I've been part of every UN climate conference since 2008. I've been an advisor to the European Parliament on climate policy and carbon tax issues. I've helped establish carbon taxation that is fair, equitable, environmental, and locally enriching, not corporate enriching in other nations. So it was on the basis of all that that when I first got a call from somebody, I thought they were asking me to consult on the Green New Deal. So I was all excited. It's like, great, another consulting thing. Always happy to do that pro bono. We've got to save the planet. And then when I met with them, it turns out they actually said, well, yeah, technically we do want you to help on the Green New Deal, but we'd like you to do it from Congress. And uh, super flattered, really busy. No thanks. Yeah, right. But then our current administration rolled back the nth environmental policy, rolled back another EPA regulation, and my wife turned to me and said, "You have to." And we had a long talk because we've got two toddlers, and right now the way Jessica and I parent is we do everything together. We're a wonderful team. I'm beyond lucky, and she before COVID, when she traveled for work, I would take care of the kids, and when I traveled for work, she would take care of the kids. And Congress would not give me that flexibility, and so it really had to be a family decision. Um, but since our kids aren't school age, we figured we could migrate between Massachusetts and DC as a family, and go down to DC and move back to Massachusetts and back and forth. And that way we keep a foot in the district so we can actually genuinely represent people because we know them, we talk to them daily, and we can be in DC at the same time. But we do that as a whole family.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. What do you think the most important parts of the Green New Deal are?
Um, well, from my point of view, on a scientific basis, I would say the very first thing that we have to start considering is the sequestration of carbon. Cutting emissions is great, but even if today, right now, we were to stop all emissions, which is not actually possible, but let's say we had a magic switch and we could say, okay, all fossil fuels use stops today. Would that fix it? It wouldn't fix the problem because of the existing atmospheric CO2 levels. Global temperatures would continue to rise for decades, if not centuries. So saying we're getting emissions cut to 50% by 2030 or 2050 or whatever unreasonable incrementalist approach is being proposed by the centrists and the establishments isn't ever going to do it. We're going to have to do aggressive cuts of emissions, and we're going to equally aggressively have to pull down the atmospheric CO2 that's already there. So, from a scientific basis, I'd say that's the first and foremost. The IPBES came out with a report in April that said that 1 million species are on the verge of extinction because of us. That's how we fix it. That's how we save those million species. That's how we save the loss of ecosystems. Because what people say, well, we'll go a little over the temperature. It's okay. Then we'll just pull it back to our target of 1.5 or 2 degrees C above industrial. That's not how it works. Because once you go over temperature overshoots, those species that are lost don't come back. Those ecosystems that are lost don't come back. Those people that die because they have no access to water, they don't come back. So temperature overshoots is a casual way of saying we're okay with killing a lot of people and species. It's not okay. So we have to do it more aggressively. Um, so that's the scientific basis. From a U.S. social basis, I think Medicare for all and social safety nets are what's going to really advance us. I mean, right now, obviously, the cost per kilowatt of wind power is cheaper than anything that's produced by fossil fuels. And fossil fuels have subsidies, right? Use those subsidies to create new jobs, to provide the social safety nets, cut oil off from all fossil fuel subsidies, ban fracking immediately, um, and create millions of good jobs in wind and solar. You know,
Absolutely. Do you support the federal jobs guarantee?
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Everybody should have the right to employment and good employment, and minimum wage needs to be a lot higher.
Absolutely. I've thought about this so much. I don't understand how we feasibly could do anything with the climate in, 10 years if we don't have a federal jobs guarantee. I don't see how that's plausible.
You're 100% on the mark with that. I mean, think about yourself personally. If if you don't have enough money to get by, and you have to take some non-environmental option just to survive, are you going to say, well, using this product is bad for the environment, I really shouldn't, I'm just going to die instead? No, no one in their right mind is going to do that. um, I mean, there may be some saintly environmentalists who would sacrifice their lives rather than use a plastic bag or something, but I don't know many. So we need to provide the security for people to then have the freedom to act in an environmentally sustainable and conscious manner.
Absolutely. So going back to Medicare for all, obviously at this point right now, anyone who's against it is kind of a psychopath. But not just now, but what would that mean to, your constituents and even mass as a whole?
So um, I've been trying to run my campaign in a way that rather than just talking about what we would do if we're elected, I'm talking about what I will do now and using my campaign as an example of that rather than just promises, because we all know what campaign promises are worth. Right?
Mhm.
Right. No matter which party we're talking about, no matter which candidate, a campaign promise is worth buckets. So to try and bring attention to our campaign, um, because like a progressive, we have the media blackout, right? So we're just little Bernies, all the progressives, right? And I have to channel my inner Bernie to not get angry about the media blackouts and things like that. But so we thought we'll take out an ad in the Boston Globe and use that to bring some attention to the campaign. And then I found out what an ad in the Boston Globe costs. And and just like the national level campaign, where I can't morally justify the expense that this election cycle has spent on a primary, where who knows, maybe at the convention they're just going to pick a candidate who never even ran. Um, I couldn't, in my own little campaign, make that same moral decision. And so I thought, for the cost of a 2 inch by 3 inch ad, what else could I do with that that would be a better use of that money? And so I partnered with a group in Andover, which is in our district, and we purchased all of the medical debt for all of the poor families and all of the twice poverty level families in our entire congressional district and excused it.
Wow. That
So
is incredible.
Medicare for all in this district would mean the savings of, hundreds of thousands of people.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine the way those people feel right now
They don't even know
having
we did
that.
it. We just
Oh
erased
my
them.
God. I just got goosebumps as someone who's legally blind and has so much, from treatments I get every month that are $12,000 per eye. And, as someone who has so much medical debt, like I can't even fathom Oh my God. I'm like gonna cry. That's so incredible.
Right.
Oh my God. I can't even wow. Wow. Oh my God. Um and especially since you have toddlers who have had medical needs, I can't, even fathom what it would do for parents like yourselves to have Medicare for all and just have that peace of mind.
So NICU beds cost about 3,000 a day. Um,
Wow.
we have twins, so that would be 6,000 a day. Um, and they were in for a little over 2 months. Um, Children who are born very premature have a much higher survival rate if they have a lot of skin on skin contact with parents right in the beginning and as frequently as possible for as long as they're in the queue. So my wife and I were in the hospital every day, all day. And we'd strip down, put the babies on our chest, and just it was a wonderful, magical period, and we were lucky to have been there. But it was heartbreaking too because there were many, many kids that we saw there whose parents had not enough medical care or no medical care, and so they would give birth to the kid, leave the child in NICU, and NICU for those who are not following the show and don't know what that's neonatal intensive care. Um, um, uh, we'd see those parents have to crying leave the hospital to go to work the next day, sobbing, and the number of times they came home back to the hospital to find out their child hadn't made it.
Wow.
Um, that's what we're doing. People who say that we can't afford Medicare for all are okay with babies dying because moms can't afford to not be with them.
Absolutely. They're enabling austerity
And death,
and death.
right?
Absolutely. Wow.
Anybody who says we can't afford it, and this, I mean, this whole COVID thing, there are silver linings in it. I mean, the fact that they were able to find $2 trillion for Wall Street in 48 hours means we can afford Medicare for all. Because don't anybody try
Absolutely.
and tell me we can't now, right?
Absolutely. Wow. Um, Something else, that a lot of us are focusing on now that we just kind of can't help it is now that Bernie dropped, how in the hell are we going to get these things? Who is, I mean, yes, we have Congress. Hopefully they can, you know, do legislation to get this and things like that. But how feasible is it at this point?
Um, there are two paths that we need to be following. We need to aggressively make sure that Bernie's voice and the progressive voice is heard at the convention. Um, we got some concessions in 2016. We need to get more in 2020. Um, the fact that 54% of the population did not have the right to participate in a presidential election before they essentially picked a nominee has never happened before in this country. It is the disenfranchisement of more than 50%. So, you know, if more than 50% hadn't had the chance to vote, in theory, they could change the tide in any direction. Who knows? Um, so we have had a tremendously undemocratic election cycle, and we have to be fighting tooth and nail to keep our voices going because the people who have made sure that we didn't have a democratic election cycle are the very ones that are pushing for the corporate interests. You know, look at all the people who abandoned their values to endorse Biden. I mean, every single one of those former presidential candidates. I mean, Kamala, who had said that you're a segregationist, Buttigieg, every single one of them abandoned their core values to endorse the presumptive nominee.
Absolutely.
Why? What would motivate somebody to abandon that which is so deeply part of who they are as a person? All you have to do is look at their donor list and match it up with the presumptive nominee. And, you know, we need public elections. We need the elimination of Citizens United. We need also our free press to be more honest, and so we need the reintroduction of the Fairness Act. Those are the things that we need to do. So for our paths for getting Medicare for all move forward, or a Green New Deal, or any of the critical progressive issues that the majority of America wants, are the convention, at first and foremost, and then getting as many progressives in Congress and Senate as possible.
Absolutely. And I will be at the convention protesting. I was in 2016. We're 100 degrees, marching 8 miles a day. And I will be this time as well. And I will be filming, and I will be interviewing people about their stories, and I will be raising hell.
Good,
Because
good.
I can't not. So I
Do you know
already
who
have
our
my
very
Facebook.
first? Do you know who our very first endorsement was?
Who's that?
Portia Bulger.
Oh, great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah. I mean, we've got
That's
a long
awesome.
list of endorsements, but the fact that Portia was our first, to me, set the groundwork for everything, because it said that we feel an equal rage about the injustices, and
Absolutely. And
I
I
don't
saw
know that
that
there will be a convention, will there? I mean,
with
what if they go all virtual? Then
that would
then that
suck.
silence, yeah, it silences the protester. It silences activism.
Well, Tom Perez said, not that he's honest or trustworthy, but a couple days ago, he did come out with an article that stated, we moved it from July to August because we want it in person. So at this point, and I told, our comrades, let's go regardless. Like, let's go. Like, whether they hold it or not. A lot of us already have stuff booked.
Right.
Um, let's just go. Let's just go. Let's protest. There's still things that we can do.
What may I just interject a thought?
Sure.
If they cancel an in-person convention, which is possible because COVID is really far more serious than many people are acknowledging, and they do go to all virtual, which is one of the things that's been discussed within Massachusetts. We're certainly talking about a virtual convention within our state's convention. Um, at that point, why not protest where Tom Perez is?
Right.
You know, find out where his base is, find out where the DNC base is, and do the protests there. Because activism is a critical component of democracy, and the cancellation of an in-person convention is the silencing of the activist voice. And that is the most un-American of actions, because if you think about it, our nation is founded by activists. They didn't do a lot of ethical things, but at its core, it was activism. They were protesting the establishment when they founded a nation. And so to silence the activist voice is fundamentally undemocratic and un-American.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very convenient for them with COVID,
Yeah.
because whether it's accurate or not, I mean, obviously it is right now, but it would be very convenient for them to cancel, to make it virtual as a whole. But I did talk, I mean, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm not far from DC. I go there to cover events. And I did talk about that as well. Like, I'm totally open to organizing some kind of protest there,
Oh,
at the DNC, which would be hilarious and amazing at the same time.
and
There's,
not only hilarious, I think instrumentally important.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely an option. Because a lot of people are on the East Coast. Like, so many people could come to DC from all over.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's definitely a thought. We have a few months to plan it, thankfully, but um, that would be awesome, almost just as good as being in the convention. Although I did apply to be a volunteer inside the convention, chances are they're going to search my social media and deny me, but I try. Which would be hilarious.
It'd be wonderful.
What is something that you want to leave the viewers with? And also to encourage them to promote the campaign and get you the rest of those signatures.
So the single most important thing is to share our signature sheet. That it doesn't matter if you live here. The more you share it, the more Twitter algorithms will allow it to be seen. Share it on Facebook. The more it's shared, the more visible it will become. And if you know anybody in Massachusetts 6th District, call them up. Don't wait for social media, because social media has been kind of slow to make things visible to people. Call your friends
Right.
up and say, "Hey, get your cell phone out. You can do this on your cell phone. Just click on this if you have a smartphone, and 3 clicks and you're done signing the paper." So um, that would be a huge help. In terms of, and that's for my personal campaign. We have till May 5th to get those signatures. Then if we succeed with that, then the big battle is running the campaign against a corporate. I mean, Seth Moulton is my opponent. He's Goldman Sachs, Bain Capital supported, pro-military, anti-public school, pro-fracking. Um, it won't be an easy battle, you know, but I think it's a fundamentally important battle, because people are suffering, and they need to have a voice. A member of Congress isn't supposed to be a leader. A member of Congress is supposed to be the ear of and mouth of the people. And there are two different approaches to how you run an office. And my belief is I am simply the message carrier of the district, and my opponent wants to be the one who shapes the district.
Absolutely. And I digress, but oh my God, when I was looking at your endorsements, Billy Bragg, are you kidding me? How did that happen?
So I mean, he's been one of my heroes forever. And I really like his version of "What Side Are You On?"
Mm-hmm.
Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? It's a great, what a perfect song for Mayday, right? And it's because it at its core is the ultimate union song, and the labor song. Um, and so I tweeted to my hero and said, "Hey, do you mind if I use this for my campaign?" And he said, "Go ahead, but remember, it's not mine. The original version was." And he gave me a history lesson of the song. So I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God. My hero is not only letting me use his music, my hero is giving me music history lessons." So, um, and that was the same day that I actually met Noemi Klein. So it was like,
Oh my gosh, I can't even. Oh my God, what a hero.
yeah,
I would just, I mean, that enough is like, this was worth it.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. And then, and
Wow.
then, and speaking of Billy Bragg and kids, um, one of our kids' favorite songs is "We're Going on a Bear Hunt." Um,
Oh
and you know that book, great book. Well, Billy Bragg is a granddad, and he's got a grandchild that he can't see because of COVID. And
yeah.
so on the
Oh,
child's birthday, he said, "I'm going to take my grandchild's favorite song and put it to music." And he did
oh,
a video for his grandson on his grandson's birthday, and he sings "We're Going on a Bear Hunt," splish splash splish, and and
oh my
and,
God.
and oh, it is amazing. I played it for the kids, and I have to say, as a former punk, um, the fact the fact that my children love Billy Bragg fills my heart
So
so
proud.
much, so much.
Well, coincidentally, my family's in Boston.
Oh,
So, like, born and raised, all of them are there. And that's what my aunties and I used to do every time I went to Boston was we're going on a bear hunt.
yay!
That was our thing. Oh my God, that is so that made my
Yeah.
day. That's so
You have to
great.
Google the song. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Oh my God, that is too cool. Well, I will definitely we'll get that link up. We'll be showing this show again at 9 p.m.
Right?
And oh, before I forget, now your district, what actual towns is that?
Okay. Let me read them. There's 39 of them.
Oh, are there any like big ones? Like,
Well,
Like familiar
I mean,
names?
the biggest one and our most diverse is Lynn.
Oh,
Gloucester,
okay.
Gloucester. Everybody knows Gloucester. Lynn is important because Frederick Douglass went there when he escaped slavery. Um, Gloucester with a fisherman and wicked tuna. Um, right,
Wicked awesome.
right, exactly. But yeah, I can give you a link of the 39 towns and cities, but it's I can rattle through it really fast. You mind?
Well, a
Well,
link would be
a link.
great.
Okay, we'll do the link.
Yeah, we'll do the link, and I'll also post the signature sheet because we gotta get you on that ballot in 4 days. Come on,
Yeah,
they. I mean, I'm glad they're letting you do it online because
right,
that's the only democratic thing. But
right,
wow, we gotta push this.
right, right.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
You
thank you
have
for having
been
me.
amazing. I
Thank you,
really
thank you.
enjoyed this show.
And I have immensely, and I just wanted to thank you because not only is the interview important, but being able to thank you verbally in person for the heroic effort that you took on campaigning and taking all that time off from your life and traveling across the country. I wanted the opportunity to give you a very public thank you for that because
Oh,
that
thank you
was
so much.
that was inspiring and moving, and it's what this nation needs way more of.
Thank you so much. Oh my God. You're giving me goosebumps this
Oh,
whole
sorry.
show.
Right.
I can't even imagine you as a dad. I know you'd be phenomenal.
I
Oh my
love
God.
I love being a dad. It's, I understand why people have kids in their 20s, but I have to say better late than never, and boy am I loving every second of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I will definitely promote this campaign and get you as many signatures as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. You are amazing.
Thank you so much, and so are you. Have a wonderful,
Thank
wonderful day.
you. Bye bye.